Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. So when I came to study at UCT in the 1990s, barefoot, long-haired and hippie, I heard about this Rabbi Leib, who had been here in the late 1980s and with his family had moved to Philadelphia, and only good things had I heard. And when I was fortunate enough, after studying rabbinical school, getting smicha, having 2 children out of our 3 in London, we were fortunate to move to Philadelphia for a year while Rabbi Ondi was studying, and I was educational consulting, and everyone around Philadelphia spoke about Rabbi Leib, Old York Road, Temple Beth Am. What a great rabbi. And tonight we have the pleasure of his company and his family's company here in the synagogue that he led. He is a child of the community and very beloved in the community. And I know that some of you are here because you did know him from that period. And many of you will be discovering him for the first time this evening. You reminded me, Rabbi Robert, that 10, 11 years ago, you brought a group from your synagogue here and had the pleasure of being able to be here in Cape Town, but this is the first time with the whole entourage that you've been able to be here, and in honor of your 50th anniversary of your matriculation at Sea Point Boys. That's an amazing occasion, and that's a beautiful simcha to celebrate tomorrow evening. So we have the pleasure of having you give us some words of Torah this evening, and I'm going to invite you to come and speak to the congregation.
Dear friends, you'll understand why they call me the altar Rabbi.
But not the altar.
Rabbi Greg, thank you so very much for your beautiful welcoming remarks. I deeply appreciate it. And it's wonderful to be back in this sacred space, this Kal Kadosh, this evening, and most importantly, seeing you once again, recognizing the extraordinary contributions that you have made, not only to Temple Israel, but indeed to the Jewish community, to the wider society of Cape Town over the course of so many years. And Rabbi Greg, I doff my kippah to you. I really do, most sincerely, in all those remarkable accomplishments. But for me, what is most wonderful tonight is seeing so many Punims that I recognize from the old days. And now, Helga, don't take it too personally, but, Helga's family, of course, have been so intimately associated with Temple Israel over the course of decades, and Rachel came up to remind me that we taught together here in the Hebrew school. I'm seeing some relatives, Gail and Colin Gordon, Mike Kavensky, Sandra Kruger, beloved friends and family, Uta Ben Yosef as well. It's a great thrill to see all of you this evening. So thank you for your very generous remarks. And Tommy, I'll talk to you. Congratulations on becoming Bar Mitzvah tomorrow. Thank you for that lovely welcome. I am joined this evening by my wife Randy, by our 3 daughters, Haley, our oldest daughter, who in fact was 7 months of age when we left for Philadelphia in August of 1989, I believe it was. So, Ilana and Aviva, who were born in the northern suburbs of Philadelphia. And Ilana's fiance, Jai, they announced their engagement on New Year's Day, much to our great delight and pleasure. I'm not getting any younger, kids. And we want to welcome as well Aviva's boyfriend, Michael. It's a great thrill for me to have them here together with me. So it is true that Randy and I were last here about 11 years ago in November of 2014 with 44 fellow Bethamniks from my congregation, again in the northern suburbs of Philadelphia. And we were here for an Erev Shabbos. I'm not sure if any of you were here that particular Shabbat, but it was memorable for each and every one of us. And for our oldest and our middle daughters, Haley and Delana, it's their first return to Cape Town in 30 years. in 30 years. So it's a wonderful reunion for all of us. But I have to tell you that coming back into this very special sanctuary is deeply and profoundly moving for me. Temple Israel, after all, is the synagogue where I grew up. It really was for me, and this is no exaggeration, it was my home away from home. It was here that I attended Hebrew school religiously, Tuesday afternoons, I believe it was, and Saturday mornings. And then on Sundays, who of you remember the ballroom? By the way, I'm thrilled to know that the ballroom that I became bar mitzvah on May the 6th, 1972, which just happened to be a Saturday, of course, and coincided with my 13th birthday that particular year. But I'll never forget, Rabbi Sherman of blessed memory, Helga, was unavailable that particular Shabbat, Rachel. He had to undergo emergency throat surgery, if I remember correctly. And so Hans Kramer, the president of Temple Israel at the time, Alav Shalom, and Benny Penn, the secretary. Some of you might remember Benny Penn. The two of them oversaw my bar mitzvah. And so when I returned, Rabbi Greg, as Rabbi Sherman's assistant in 1986, at my installation that Sunday, I asked for his rabbinic blessing, which was a long time coming. So I was certainly very grateful for it. So between 1986 and 1989, I stood on the bima of the old sanctuary as a young assistant to Rabbi David Sherman, Zichrona Livracha, of blessed memory. And as if that weren't enough, this long-awaited visit from where we live in the northern suburbs of Philadelphia just happens, as you heard from Rabbi Greg, to coincide with my, hard to believe, 50th high school reunion this very weekend. So given all of the above, you'll understand why I'm feeling a little verklempt and somewhat nostalgic and kind of feeling old as well. 50 years invites memory. It also invites some kind of reckoning. Who were we then? Who exactly are we now? And what life lessons, if any, have we carried with us across all of this time? So I might not remember exactly what happened last Shabbos. Lots of senior moments these days. But at the very first morning assembly of my very first day in Standard 6, now I know we've transitioned, right, from standard to grade, but Standard 6, my very first morning assembly at Sea Point Boys High, the principal, Dr. John Gibbon, who joined us, by the way, for cocktails at the Freyne Sports Club yesterday, and looks terrific for an 84-year-old, welcomed us with a speech that I've never forgotten. Probably because my first day of high school, I was so terrified, and I basically clung to his every word. But his subject that morning was the challenge of the unfinished. The challenge of the unfinished. And at that time, it must have been early January 1972, I had no idea why that title edged itself so deeply in my memory. But now, standing here this evening, this Erev Shabbos, it feels as though it's been waiting quietly, unfinished business of its own, if you will. So as you heard from Rabbi Greg, this Shabbat we read Parashat Mishpatim, which admittedly offers a very strong contrast to the grandeur and the sheer opulence of last Shabbat's monumental Sedra, Parashat Yitro. Now, I'm sorry to have to admit this, but within the course of just 1 week, we've transitioned from the majestic to the mundane. What, you might ask, happened to the lofty and to the spiritual heights that we experienced last Shabbat at Mount Sinai? After the thunder and the lightning, we might have expected soaring theology or mystical poetry, but there's none of it. Instead, Parashat Mishpatim gives a lengthy, tedious list of Mishpatim, of laws. And whether we like it or not, we move from last Shabbat's dramatic encounter with revelation to this Shabbat's, forgive me, obsessive preoccupation with regulation. From revelation to regulation. Laws about damages and liability, about workers' rights, about caring for the vulnerable, the stranger, the poor, about what happens when people hurt one another, accidentally or intentionally. It can feel almost deflating, defeating. After all, wasn't the Sinaitic experience supposed to radically change the world? But you see, friends, Mishpatim is the Torah's quiet insistence that revelation only matters within the context of lived reality. It's as if to say that the real test of Kedushah, of holiness, is not what you feel at or on the mountain, but dafka, how you behave when you finally come down. And there's a famous moment towards the end of tomorrow morning's reading, and Tommy, Rabbi Greg might well mention this tomorrow. It's Exodus chapter 24, verse 7, if I remember correctly. Very famous, two-word phrase. When the people of Israel respond to the Brit, to the covenant, with two renowned words, Na'aseh v'nishma, Na'aseh v'nishma. Roughly speaking, first we will do, and then we will hearken, we will hear, we will discern, we will listen, we will obey. Many of you know that for generations, commentators have puzzled over the strange order because it really should be the reverse. Shouldn't nishma, understanding, precede na'aseh, action? But truth be told, life teaches us otherwise. At 18, whether at high school or university, or even standing at Sinai, we invariably respond with the na'aseh moment. We act, sometimes impulsively. We choose, sometimes haphazardly. We leap, sometimes with reckless abandon. Oh, to be young and carefree again. But only much later, sometimes decades later, do we arrive at nishma, at truly understanding what those choices meant way back and how they have shaped us along the way. I humbly submit that a 50th high school reunion is a powerful nishma moment. And you look around the room, as I did just last night and again earlier today, when at 9 a.m. we attended the morning assembly, followed by a tour of our alma mater. You look around and you see not just who you were, but who you became and who you are still becoming. And you soon realize that very little in life arrives complete. Most of it remains in some way unfinished. Unfinished dreams of the heart. Unfinished symphonies of the soul. And that, my friends, is where Mishpatim meets the challenge of the unfinished. For truth be told, these ancient biblical laws are not about creating a perfect model society. There's no such thing. Rather, they're about creating a responsible and ethical and just society. These laws assume that people will fail, that systems of one kind or another will break, that justice will need to be repaired. Mishpatim doesn't imagine a world without conflict. It imagines a world where conflict does not have the upper hand, or, for that matter, the final word. And perhaps, just perhaps, that is why this particular Torah portion feels especially at home here in Cape Town. Those of us who grew up in the old apartheid South Africa knew what it meant to live inside unfinished stories. We have seen how draconian, oppressive, vindictive, prejudicial laws could wound and scar and kill. but also, on the other hand, how dependable laws could mend the wide breach and heal the arid soul. We have learned, sometimes all too painfully, that moral conduct cannot be postponed. It cannot be delayed until the world is ready. It must be practiced, no matter how imperfectly, achshav, now. Mishpatim insists that kedusha, that holiness, is not an abstract and cerebral concept. It's concretized in how power is used and how difference is honored and how dignity is protected. My dear friends, you think you've got intractable problems in this country? I assure you that America today continues its relentless and heartbreaking struggle over racial and ethnic inequality, social instability and economic injustice, extreme political polarization, a broken immigration system, a dysfunctional healthcare system, systemic gun violence. The list goes on and on. Mishpatim tells us that covenant is not something that you feel, it's something that you do. Coming home after many years to the fairest Cape is not about reclaiming who I was. It's about asking whether I'm still willing to accept the challenge of the unfinished. This beloved temple helped form my earliest moral instincts, not just what to believe, but how to live. And to return here now, with the distance of years and with the weight of experience, is to recognize that Torah has not finished its work on me. It never does. And yes, Judaism, like life itself, resists closure. The Brit, the covenant, is renewed over and over again, not in loud and boisterous moments of thunder and of lightning, but in the steady drumbeat, the unglamorous work, the daily grind of justice and of compassion and of accountability. So, standing here tonight, a high school student returned, a classmate half a century on, gewalt, a rabbi grown older. I feel immense gratitude. Gratitude for the teachers and for the leaders who inspired me and who shaped me, who taught me. And if I might, first and foremost among them, Rabbi David and Bertha Sherman. Zichronam livracha, of blessed memory. It was, Tommy, behind this shulchan that I became bar mitzvah. This very shulchan. Gratitude for a community that understands implicitly that faith is not strict certainty, under no means, but rather sincere commitment. And gratitude for a tradition and a morashah and a heritage that trusts enough to leave the work unfinished. Temple Israel, may you continue to be a people who say na'aseh, even if you do not yet fully understand. But equally, may you continue to be a people who never stop striving towards nishma. May you honor the past, not by preserving it unchanged, but by carrying its values forward with courage and with dignity and with humility. And may this Kihila Kedosha, may this cherished and beloved sacred community, which is never far from my heart, continue to be a place where unfinished men, women, and children are unconditionally welcomed together into the unfinished work of tomorrow. Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. Great pleasure. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shkoyach, Rabbi Robert Leib, for those beautiful and powerful words, powerfully spoken, and for reminding us of the unfinished natures of our lives, of the work that we need to do, that we are not free, even though we are not going to complete the work, neither are we free to desist from it. And so we are now going to do an act of naaseh,